where his skill set stands.
Might be looking at a third belt in his collection.
Vendors that are here tonight for Wise Muscle, go by and get the red carpet treatment. Also, stop by and see, pick up some gear at IQ Entertainment. Also, back over here in the corner, Live Tenacious, Fight Tenacious, never give up, hell yeah! Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, walking loading into the next fight of the night. Fight number 10. Introducing you to the next fighter, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together for Ryan King.
Phil King calls himself the Giant Killer, weighing in around 220 pounds. Ryan's typically considered a smaller heavyweight. I know that sounds like a paradox, but the heavyweight limit ranges from 206 to 265 pounds. So in the grand scheme of things, he's generally considered an undersized heavyweight going into his bouts. This hasn't played too much of a factor, though, as King has 5 wins under his belt.
And at heavyweight, especially the amateur levels, a lot of guys aren't exactly the all muscle at that weight class. You can use that to your advantage. If you're a smaller, quicker guy, beat their punches with your own. You have enough speed to make them hurt the bigger guys.
As I mentioned earlier, Phil King, 2 draws on his record, 5-1 and 2, which interestingly enough came in his first 2 fights, starting his career 0-0 and 2.
It's a rare thing to have happen, but hey, they won't fight back from it and get a...
I'm sorry, go ahead, Phil. The lone blemish on his record coming by way of first-round knockout at the hands of Jerry's Watterson, who we saw earlier landing big shots on Rob Durham.
It doesn't seem to be too much shame in losing to Jerry Watterson. That's a big, strong boy.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing you to the next fight. Put your hands together for Ryan of Pokryfky.
Ryan Pokryfka. Try saying that 10 times fast. No, it's hard enough to say 1 time. Excuse me. Pokryfka, 4 of his fights have come by way of doctor stoppage. That's a scary statistic, quite frankly. A true testament to the guy. He's truly an animal and a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 4 doctor stoppages, it tells you how hard this kid brings it in the cage each and every time. Clearly looking at a 5th of that record.
Pokryfka's been working his Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu now for around 3 years. 2 of his victories have come by way of submission, with only a single fight making it to the judges' scorecards.
Once again, going back, this kid brings it. If you only had 1 fight go to the scorecards, it tells you how hard he fights. He's not looking to win an easy decision, not looking to eke anything out. He's looking for a big, strong finish. Something that'll make him very popular with the fans.
Last trip to the cage was a success for Pokryfka, winning by rear naked choke in the 2nd round. Again, 1 of 2 submission victories on his record. Pokryfka's a full-time student aiming to become a teacher, actually, Phil, a la Rich Franklin, if you will. And I'll tell you what, that's not a class I'd want to be goofing around in.
No way at all. Same time, good for Pokryfka. That's a good, noble profession to be in.
We're set to get things kicked off here, Phil. Again, Pokryfka in the white trunks, fighting out of Mass Gym, Ryan King over in the black trunks. Academy of Pseudo Thai, with the tutelage of Master Isaiah Gathings.
Yep, I'm good.
Heavy nice shots early on by King. Finding a home for those uppercuts, but eating a few hooks in the process.
King is really looking to push the pace. As you said, the smaller heavyweight, you can do that because there's a chance he might not get out as well. Being the smaller guy, he's probably better conditioned.
King landed about 4 or 5 nice shots right off the rip, man. I'm really impressed, actually. I wasn't expecting to see that coming out right out the gate.
Pretty quick for a heavyweight, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of stunned Ryan with the hard last name to pronounce.
Pokryfky,
yes.
Pokryfka, excuse me. We're all three of us are correcting each other.
As we call this fight, it's kind of like reading a Dr. Seuss book.
Let's call him Ryan P.
Fair enough.
Pokryfka really working for the takedown, but Ryan King doing an excellent job of wall walking and just making it tough for Pokryfka to nail him to the ground.
Yeah, he's definitely making Ryan P. work to get that takedown. Really going to take a toll on him later in the round, possibly. But another nice takedown by Pokryfky.
Looks like Ryan King could be working. Oh, I was going to say for a triangle, but maybe just trying to get a high guard. Able to control Pokryfka a little bit better. As Pokryfka postures up, they're running down some ground and pound.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want to try to neutralize his shoulders so he can't drop any of those bombs out, especially with 5 doctor stoppages. You don't want to take any chances.
Pokryfka landing small shots early on here, but again, those can be irritating and they can take their toll eventually. The repeated shots to the eyebrow, which we see him landing here early on in round 1.
If King climbs that cage, he could get a reversal here if he keeps walking it and doesn't get flattened out on the way around.
Going for Americana from side net.
Again, we want to thank fans at home watching live on CageFightingLive.com. Live webcast MMA fights brought to you by Donofrio Entertainment here in the Impact Fight League, live from the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Ryan King standing to his feet.
He can get wrist control, he can get out of there without getting taken down again.
Good job by Pokryfka, kicking out the sole leg that's balancing and keeping him up. Looks like Pokryfka's going for a rear naked choke.
He's got it sunk pretty deep, he has no hooks in. I don't see King putting his chin down. Just kind of sitting there.
Just seconds left in the round. Could he secure the choke? He's only got seconds left. Could King make it to the second round? And he does.
King survived that round. That was close. That was deep.
Very high intensity there going those last couple seconds. I know we're all on the edge of our seat. Guys, we just want to remind you, once again, watching at home, May 21st, Donofrio Entertainment and the Impact Fight League bring action here once again from the Dow Event Center. Beatdown at the Dow.
Well, Matt, as we saw, Ryan King had a great start to that fight, but ended up on bottom for the majority of it. I personally give that round to Pokryfka just for dominant position and effective striking on the ground. How would you score that fight?
I agree with you. I think it's a very close round. I think it's a tough one to score, but again, I think Pokryfka walks away with that round on the judges' scorecards. It'd be interesting to see if King comes out with a sense of urgency like he displayed in the first round. Two-touch gloves here to get things kicked off in round number 2. King in the black trunks. Pokryfka, the white masked gym trunks.
Pokryfka slowly stalking forward.
Leg kicks landing for King, finding a home for that right straight.
Pokryfka's doing a good job getting the clinch in there and really doing work where his weight advantage will give him a good, strong advantage against King.
Now, Phil, I know we talked about earlier that the size advantage, or disadvantage, if you will, for King has never really played into things, but maybe for the first time in his career, he's experiencing that the bigger guy typically could be the stronger guy.
It could be, and having speed on your side, it doesn't do much for you if you're in clinch. You can't move, you can't bob, you can't weave. It's you're solely at the bigger guy's mercy.
Pokryfky's very proficient with the takedowns as well. So I mean that's a double whammy for King. But both these guys, neither one of them are really very large heavyweights. So I mean there's a lot of movement in this fight, which you don't see in the heavyweight division, especially in the amateur ranks that often. So
Pokryfka again weighing in at 249, but just judging from our vantage point, he doesn't look like a big 249. I wouldn't have guessed that weight for him as he looks here. It's hard to tell when he's sitting up here.
King to call the fence back like that when he's in the Americana. That was real smart.
Griffith's doing an excellent job of isolating King against that fence.
Yeah, he is. He's laying his hips on, really making him carry his weight, making King carry his weight. Doing an excellent job on his feet and on the ground. Really pressing him hard. That gets to be tolling as time goes on throughout a fight when a guy's riding you that hard.
King doing a great job of hanging in there, though.
He is, but like Brennan said, you can see he doesn't have the spring and the stuff they did in that first round. Pokryfka really had to fight for that takedown. Ryan King just constantly wall walking. It's a lot slower now, a lot harder to get that big guy off you.
2 rounds of a 249-pound guy on top of you, Phil. That'll take the will and the wind right out of you.
Pokryfka's got a nice wide base with King pinned up against that fence. He's in a real tough position there, King is.
Landing a lot of shots is Pokryfka, but they don't seem to be the hardest shots.
No, they don't, but as you said earlier, just those small, irritating shots, they add up over time. They fatigue you, they frustrate you, and they cost you the fight.
At the same time, any kind of shots from a 249-pound man add up.
He's trying to finish it with 10 seconds left.
Finding himself caught in a submission once again with seconds left, and once again making it to the next round, third and final round coming up here in the Impact Fight League. Live on CageFightingLive.com here from the Palace of Auburn Hills.
You can see Ryan King is very frustrated right now, shaking his head as he kneels on the ground, but he's got some pretty solid submission defense too.
Both rounds finding himself caught in submissions with 10 seconds left. With the experience coming into play, knowing that he can make it those last few seconds into the next round.
Brennan, I don't think it's too much of a question that King is down 2 rounds. And he needs something big. What can he do in this third round to try and pull this out?
Well, he definitely seems to have the advantage on his feet. I'd like to see him keep it on his feet. See what kind of fireworks he can blast off in this third round, because he's just a classic case of being outmatched on the takedown game and on the ground by Pokryfky. So I think that's his best chance is to keep it on his feet, let the fist fly, and pick him apart up to round 3 and try to make some big things happen.
Now, you can never tell what's going through a guy's head, but looking by the expression on King's face, it looks like he's down and out. This fight may have been taken from him mentally.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is some frustration here, and that can really play a big part in the outcome of the fight. He's to keep himself together, get his composure back, and try to finish this fight out strong.
A mental roadblock, if you will.
Definitely. Trying to create that space, that's what he needs to do, but stay out of that clinch.
He was very good at dragging him into it. Though gets a front headlock, drags him against the cage, rips him down. It's almost like a crusher.
Very good, yeah. He's giving King a very hard time on the ground.
Got the guillotine kind of locked across the face, Phil. Maybe not too much damage there, but it's irritating.
Very much, very much.
Squeezing the sides of the jaw. He needs to get that locked down around the throat, which it doesn't look like he'll be able to do. As you mentioned earlier, King's got phenomenal submission defense.
Very good, but Pokryfky's just a wet blanket, man. He is just giving him some real problems on the ground. It's nothing like being smothered like that. Real hard to make anything happen when you're being pressed on round after round after round. We're going to the third round of the same thing.
It's just the story of this fight has been how well Pokryfka has been using his weight and the cage. I don't think there's been a fighter this night who's used the cage as well as Pokryfka has here tonight.
No, he's definitely been doing an excellent job of that. And control in general. I mean, he's just maintaining control throughout this entire fight. There's those short shots we were talking about again too. He's really making them work. You know, the accumulation over time is getting to be too much for Ryan King.
Leaving a great impression in the eyes of the judges as well. I mean, that's one of the final things they'll remember, seeing this midway through the third round. These short shots, they've added up on the judges' scorecards, one could assume.
Pokryfky very wise for a big man. A lot of guys, even if they're big, will try to sink hooks in from that position. Not always the wisest move if you're a heavyweight. You don't have the most agile hips. Wisely chose to go off to the side and still control Ryan King.
Right, just follow him along the fence line. King's been doing a great job of moving. He's been trying. I mean, he's definitely putting an effort forth, but Pokryfky is just following him everywhere he goes.
Big shots landing on the jaw of King. To the ear, 3 to the jaw in a row. Very thunderous shots here late in the third round.
It looked like King was going for a rolling knee bar for a second, but thought better of it.
And Pokryfky's making those shots count. We were talking earlier about making shots count. He was picking them and making every one of them count.
Not overcommitting to the punches, not tiring himself out, as some heavyweights tend to do. They again, like you mentioned earlier, tend to blow their wad, for lack of a better term, gassing themselves out. He's choosing these shots wisely, each and every one of them landing.
That is it.
It's over.
They have stopped the fight, Phil, just seconds before the end of round 3. Ryan Pokryfky advances to 8-0 here in the Impact Fight League. Very disappointed King making his way back up to his knees.
They gotta get Pokryfky. That's a very impressive fight. Extremely dominant, almost from the beginning. A little rough start very early, but everything since that moment has been all Pokryfky. Excellent strategy, excellent technique.
Once again, we'll get the final verdict here in a few seconds with Phil the Voice Davey, bringing both men after a hard-fought battle, Phil.
The end comes to 2 minutes and 43 seconds in the third round. Your winner, Ryan Pokryfky. All right, Ryan, here we are. You and I talk about it all.